Wait, can I put my things that I will fiddle with?
Yeah,
Just
don't touch that shit.
Out of reach. All right, good to go.
Welcome to the SyrupCast, MobileSyrup's Canadian tech-focused podcast. I'm Patrick O'Rourke, and Brad Bennett, a man who refers to himself as the bad boy of tech. He's across the internet from me. How are you doing, Brad?
Good, being bad, been out there living my Top Gun lifestyle, testing drones, so pretty bad boy stuff this week actually.
You have a drone review coming, don't you?
Yep, DJI Mavic 3. You probably see, if you're into DJI Mavics, you've probably seen lots of coverage because the entire internet has already done this, but we don't do a lot of drones. So I'm just trying to take my time with this one, do it right, and hopefully provide some interesting perspectives. We'll see. But it's cool. I will say that if you're money is no object and looking for the best drone, this is probably the one to go for. The
money is no object.
Really spectacular. Yeah, the money is no object is a really big caveat there, because if money is an object, there's about 3 other drones you should be going for. Anyway, we'll talk about it later.
And we also have John Lamont on the podcast with us today. I think you've been on like every episode recently, pretty much. Right?
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, my 3rd or 4th episode in a row.
You're on a roll.
Got a good streak going.
On a streak. And we also have Dean here. Dean, last but not least, how are you doing?
Good. It's kind of weird. I'm talking to like Bennett. It's all pixelated on my screen. John's all pixelated. You're not perfect either, Pat. But I mean, otherwise, I'm good.
Nobody's perfect.
You look perfect. Bennett is a moving pixel. John is a moving pixel. Something to do with the software we use, Zencaster. I don't know. And it wasn't always like this. It only happened in the last couple months, I think.
Yeah, well, before we hit record, I feel like it's visible. Like, can you see me before we hit record? I could see all you guys, but I lose John.
Yeah,
I was able to. Yeah,
I could see you pretty clearly.
Recording.
Yeah. This is a reoccurring segment on the podcast. In case you're a new listener, we always start off and we just chirp Zencaster, the podcasting platform that came so graciously out of the blue during the pandemic to allow us to do this, but then got worse some reason throughout. Thank you, Zencaster. Welcome to the SyrupCast.
Thankfully, this isn't a podcast about Zencaster and our various technical difficulties recording this remotely. Today, we're going to be talking exclusively about the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. John handled our Pixel 6 review. Dean handled our Pixel 6 Pro review. We have a couple of fun questions prepared for them that delve into their different reviews. And we kind of picked this topic because there's a lot of hype behind these phones. They're very popular. I know people that have no interest in smartphones that went out and bought them. And for me, that's always like a barometer for interest. But before we get to the core of the show, Bennett, hit us with the hottest news of the week.
This might come up later, but I just don't want to forget about it. But like you said, the people who are our friends who are buying Pixel 6s are people who you wouldn't typically think are into phones. But for me, at least, they're all people who have used at least one Pixel in the past. And that's hooked them. Everyone that seemed to have been using one Pixel in the past, or these last three sort of years, has been hooked. It's sort of like having, its moment. This might be the second Pixel for a lot of people, I'm thinking. Anyway, to the hottest news.
I'll talk about it later, but my brother went out and bought 2 Pixel 6 Pros outright, right? And he is not the type of person that gets a new smartphone all the time. So that's another indication to me that this is a phone that people that know a little bit about phones are paying attention to.
This is a phone for the people.
For the people. Phone. Okay. Hit us with the news.
So, I don't know if this is the biggest thing. This has kind of been swirling around, and Netflix has kind of dragged this out to make it a very long news cycle, but they've announced or released 5 games on mobile. I think the Stranger Things games were already a thing. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're putting games out on mobile, ranging from weird mobile RPGs, the Stranger Things games, to more of traditional arcade style games that you would play while waiting in line or something. And kind of an interesting turn for Netflix. It makes sense, I think, for us, because we've been watching the news. We've seen Netflix be like, oh, Fortnite is stealing eyes from us. We don't care about Disney Plus and HBO, but we care about those Fortnite guys. To then now see them making their own games. It's kind of interesting.
They're on iOS now too, I believe, right?
Yeah, they're out on both mobile platforms. I think the Stranger Things game you can get on PC. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Netflix makes games.
What strikes me as the most interesting about this is how Netflix went about it. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I don't know, a while back, Microsoft and Apple kind of got into a spat over game streaming on iOS, and Apple basically put out policies that said you can't do a game streaming platform on iOS in the way that Microsoft wanted to do it, which is you download one app and you have access to all these different games. Apple wanted every single game to be individually available in the App Store. And that's kind of the way that Netflix has done it. So you can go and download all the Netflix games from the App Store or the Play Store if you're on Android. But to play them, you need the Netflix subscription, and then you can the app links between them. So you can open up the Netflix app and you can press the games tab and you can see your games and you can launch them from Netflix. But it's weird that they're individually available as well.
How do you feel about strange. How do you feel about them launching with sort of I haven't played them, so I'm just going to assume I've looked at the screenshots, I've watched the video, I've read a little bit. I haven't played them, I will say that, but they don't look good. How do you feel about Netflix potentially launching 5 average games? Do you
they
think
just look like regular mobile games?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think they should like launch with something that might have hooked people or done something? Do you think they should have launched with something that would have gained the news cycle with this is a good game rather than Netflix is in gaming?
Yeah. I can't speak to the Stranger Things games because I haven't played those, but I do think there's definitely an opportunity for Netflix to take advantage of some of its own IP, like Stranger Things and, some of the other Netflix shows and movies, and kind of do gaming content in those areas that is only available through Netflix. I think there's definitely maybe a niche market for that, but there's something there. The other mobile games, I played one, I don't remember what it's called, but you have to tap the sides of the screen to make this platform go up, and you tap the right side of the screen and the right side of the platform goes up, and you have to balance it to keep a ball on the platform from falling off. And I played it for 5 minutes and was this is incredibly stupid. It's very much your basic bare bones mobile game that is kind of just there to, well, the Netflix one doesn't have ads, but if I were to download a non-Netflix version of that game from the Play Store, the entire point of that game is to just be an avenue to send ads to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe, I guess maybe they're trying to hopefully catch on some random viral Flappy Bird thing, but I don't see it happening. There's one thing I was about to say.
It's also a little weird because Netflix's business model is subscriptions, right? So they don't make more money for the more time that people spend in their app.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a little bit weird to me that they're kind of pushing these things like games with the idea of trying to get people to spend more time in Netflix when there's no correlation between time spent. If I watch no Netflix movies in a month, but I still pay my Netflix subscription, Netflix is still making money. Arguably, they're making more than if they have to make a bunch of content to keep me watching, right?
Yeah.
I think Dean, do you want to take on it? Go ahead.
I actually don't remember it at all. I think this sounds familiar. I think I did a game of the week on it in 2017 for the Stranger Things game.
They're supposed to be okay. They're a throwback kind of NES RPG sort of thing. From what I've heard, they're supposed to be fine. I was just gonna say my take on this Netflix thing is it's like mind share. They just want more eyes on the platform for longer periods of time. And these mobile games, as uninspired and not super interesting as they are, I think this is just Netflix dipping its toe in the waters, trying to figure out how this might work, seeing how people respond to it. And then you might see a more significant investment down the line, possibly if it pans out the way that they're hoping. But it's a little bizarre to me. I don't think I will ever think of games when I think of Netflix. And I think that's what they're trying to change.
One thing I will say is I think they'll be able to get crazy viral hype if they start tying games into shows. If there would have been a Squid Game app that's here are the games from Squid Game, play them with your friends, that heads-up card game that Ellen did, it's that beep would have been number 1 in the App Store for sure, right? Am I crazy?
What were you going to say, Dean?
Well, I was just thinking if I've always heard of Stranger Things, I've never never seen the show, and I see that Netflix has a game, or if I'm just scrolling through the App Store or Play Store, and I see this game, and then I click on it, and then like, well, this is kind of interesting. I like this old style, of like theme and stuff. Maybe I should watch this show. That
Yeah,
also
that's
might
true. Good
happen.
That's
point.
true. It could tie back that way too. You're right. That being said, if you haven't watched, well, I guess you maybe have a Netflix subscription. But I think John said at the beginning, where it's like you need the Netflix subscription to even play these games. It seems like.
Yeah.
Nuts. Seems nuts. But it all makes sense. And what Pat said, I guess, about like dipping your toe and creating that mind share from now. Yeah, it's pretty lackluster now. In a year from now, there may be one or two apps in there that are truly keeping people attached to the platform. Who knows? Should we move on?
What else? What other news do you have for us?
Nothing is fun. Just one that I want to talk about with Black Friday being a myth, basically. Just shout out to anyone on MobileSyrup that's listening. We've got tons of Black Friday content already up because, I don't know, Black Friday I thought was on the 27th, but every store is just doing sales already, and they will probably be doing sales until January 1st from here till then.
I think we might even do like a Black Friday deal special the week of Black Friday, maybe on the podcast.
That could be fun.
Thought occurred to me, like coming up with like our favorite deals or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We could have a good opportunity to have Karan on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good idea. He does have a mic and stuff now.
Yeah. What was I going to say? But yeah, basically, if you're looking for deals, specifically tech deals, check out MobileSyrup Daily. We're trying to write what we find as the best ones. So, holiday shopping's coming up. You want to save money. We're trying to help you. Don't be mad about all the deals. We're just trying to help. People like reading them. Happy shopping.
The only thing I was going to say about Black Friday is what's a little different this year is, and I know it's like this in years past, but more so this year than any other year, it feels like it's Black Friday month. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like you could go
there's
to our
sales
site
already.
today.
Like I just bought a camera on a Black Friday deal yesterday. It's only November 10th, right? And that sale goes until like past Black Friday. Yeah. So like the deals are just going to keep going.
Oh,
is Cyber Monday, is that after Black Friday or is that after Boxing Day?
Yeah, it's after Black Friday.
And it sucks in Canada usually. It's like really not a thing.
I think I actually find it like it's not usually that bad. Like it's I don't know. It's never I mean, it's not as good as Black Friday, but it's not as bad.
Maybe it's the stuff you're looking for, right? Like maybe it's the type of things you're trying to buy compared to what I'm trying to look for.
One thing I will say, actually, a little Black Friday pro tip from Brad, shopping tip, is previously for those of you, everyone I think that's listening probably knows, MobileSyrup was bought by Blue Ant. We have corporate backing now, so we get like a corporate Adobe plan. But previously, everyone just got their own Adobe plans, and up until that point, I would buy my plan every year on Black Friday, half the price, all the apps. So if you like Adobe and you want Photoshop and Premiere and Audition and all of those jazz, Black Friday, it goes on sale, half the price, has done it for the past 3 years, and it's save you like, I think it's like $200. It's pretty good.
Pretty sure it's going to happen again too. That's all
exactly.
I'll say.
And for gamers, Game Pass is usually $1, right? I mean,
that's true.
I can talk about Black Friday deals all day long. Like I usually know them all. Like
next week,
50% off the PlayStation Store. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, I guess the next bit of news, and this just happened yesterday, but Twitter Blue, which is Twitter's subscription service, speaking of Netflix and getting mindshare and getting people to pay for crazy things, Twitter Blue is here. So if you want to have a buffer so you can undo a tweet, Twitter Blue is here. And then what else can you get from it? You can undo a tweet. You can
there's like news aggregation.
Yeah, news aggregation, and then like there's another. I don't know who's typing this. I don't know what quick news is.
Someone's typing in the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ignore the notes. Just keep talking. Let's go.
Keep talking.
What is quick news? You finished the note, I thought. Anyway, Twitter Blue is here. It's alive in US and Canada. Probably for no one. I don't see anyone taking advantage of it. Does anyone on this panel think that they will ever pay for Twitter Blue?
No.
Is it like $3 a month?
I just don't have any reason to, right? Like maybe if they gave me an edit button, because I'm notorious for like tweeting hot takes with spelling errors and then deleting them and then posting them and then still having more spelling errors and then deleting them again and then posting them again. It would be nice to just be able to edit it.
When you do that.
You often message me. And you're like, yo, what are you talking about?
But the undo button, I think it's like with email. It's like you only get a certain amount of time where you can't undo it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's the same, yeah.
Yeah, so Twitter Blue, it's here. Maybe they'll add more features. It's like the Netflix thing. It's like maybe in the future it'll be something, but they just like launched it and it's pretty soft. We don't care about that, but we're talking about it anyway.
Yeah. Also, my understanding is several of the new features that were added along with it, like the undo button is probably the biggest, but they did some like thing where now if you open news articles. You don't have to see the ads if you're a subscriber, but it's like super limited, and it only works from Twitter, and it only works if you click certain links on Twitter that are in like the Twitter card thing. So it's just like a lot of the features feel kind of half-baked or, you know, not fully functional, and it just makes me less likely to pay for the service.
I don't need to pay to use the hellscape.
Yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah, give me a useful feature. Maybe I'll consider it, but nothing here is drawing me in. So we'll see how much revenue Twitter makes off. It'll be interesting, I guess. And then the last thing we just had in the quick news is the TTC. So if you live in Toronto, like us, the TTC is the Transit Commission, runs all the buses, the subway, the streetcars, all that jazz. They got hacked, ransomware, and if you work there, you probably lost your personal information, your address, SIN number, credit card information. Good stuff. And I don't know. I don't have much of a hot take on it because like that's obviously just like a terrible thing to happen to people. But like, there's something to be said about like having this like modern workplace where you have to be aware that you need like cyber insurance at your job, because if you work at a high profile enough business, they could get hacked, and that could just like affect you as a person. And that I feel so bad for those people. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm just curious why someone would hack the TTC. Like what?
It's worth millions. You know, there's a ransomware hack, so they were holding files and information ransom until they were paid.
Did they end up paying?
Is that what
I haven't followed this
ransomware
story
means?
much.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that makes so much sense.
I don't know. They got a lot of stuff back, so I'm assuming they paid, but like I haven't seen a lot of news about it, so maybe it was like pretty behind the scene.
Interesting.
I
know we
not
covered
really
a little bit
what
of
ransomware meant.
Counter hack it. I don't know. But basically, I don't think so. Maybe they didn't pay because all this information is like been compromised. Customers of the TTC are compromised. Like I don't know. It's less about this being the TTC because it doesn't really apply to all listeners, but it's just like interesting to think about that in 5 years. Like even now we should be worrying about it, but I'm sure in 5 years we all will be worrying about it more frequently. You know, like 5 years ago, I didn't worry about having a different password for everything, but I've been hacked now and I have to worry about it for everything. You know what I mean? So like the time
My McDonald's account was hacked.
Exactly. The time's changing. It's sad.
My claim to fame.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. I think a good way to kick this off, and Bennett, I know you suggested this. We have it kind of divided like after this into different sections, but I guess a good way to start talking about this is like, John, you're very adamant about preferring the Pixel 6. Dean, you prefer the Pixel 6 Pro. To kick it off, John, why do you prefer the Pixel 6 over the Pixel 6 Pro?
It just makes more sense to me. So there's a few kind of preferential things that are like just my opinion, things that I prefer. I don't like super big phones. The Pixel 6 is a massive phone, but it's not quite as massive as the 6 Pro. I don't like curved display glass. You know, just those are a bunch of like little personal preference things about the phone that is part of my decision. But the overall thing that I would say for anybody who's trying to decide between these two phones is there's about a roughly $400 difference in price. The Pixel 6 is $800 in Canada, $799.99 if you want to be exact, but it's $800. And the 6 Pro is, oh, sorry, somebody is calling me. Let me just mute that.
Should answer it live on the podcast.
Yeah, do answer it live.
Answer it live. I'm pretty sure it's a spam call. I'm going to screen call
Even better.
Yeah, so the Pixel 6 Pro, is $1,179. So just shy of a $400 difference between the two. And the extra stuff that you get with the Pro for that $400 price difference, to me, is not worth the extra $400. You get a telephoto lens on the camera. You get a bigger screen, which I don't want. The screens are already too big. And you get a higher screen refresh rate, which just kills the battery faster. So for me, the extra $400 is totally not worth it. And if the cost, the price, the value for money is your main concern, I think the 6 is a much better value option.
Dean, I think I know what you're going to say, and it's going to be the opposite of what John's saying, but why do you prefer the Pro over the standard Pixel 6?
Well, the opposite of what John said. No, I prefer the I like bigger phones. I've always liked the. I can't think of big phones right now for some reason, but I like bigger phones.
iPhone Pro Max, you
And
use the Fold, you use like
yeah,
big
the
giant
Fold,
Huawei
the
phones.
huge Huawei phones, huge
Yeah.
Samsung phones, huge phones in general. I like curved edges. I think it makes the phone feel better in your hand. So like Pixel 6 in my hand, like my hand kind of just wraps around it. Whereas iPhone 13 Pro, this feels weird. I don't like it in comparison. I just think the curve, it's more like your hand kind of has a curve and it fits better in my opinion. So
Okay.
I prefer that.
I'll give him
I
that.
liked I like the telephoto lens. I think that more phones should have it. And I found it useful as I was testing out the phone. The bigger battery may not be worth it because the battery life isn't like the great. Like I'm using the 13 Pro Max a lot right now, and I'm like, dang, this has good battery life. And I didn't think that with the Pixel 6 Pro, but
You still get through
also
like a day, right?
yeah, I get through a day. It does
Sure.
what it needs to do. I love higher hertz screens, and although John points out it might consume a little bit more battery, it's adaptable, right? So when you're not trying to scroll or whatever, it goes back down to 11 hertz. So it's not like or 10 hertz, something like that. So it's not like a huge. I don't think it's a huge battery drain. Although I've never turned it off, so I cannot say definitely, but definitively. But I like higher hertz. Although, can I tell the major difference between 90 hertz and 120? Not exactly, but I can definitely tell that like it definitely feels a lot more substantial than 60. So yeah, um, it is almost an extra $400 for sure, and that might not be worth it for a lot of people. But I mean, it is also like $200 or $300 cheaper than the iPhone 13 Pro. Not even the Pro Max, but just the Pro. Or no, I think it's $200 cheaper than that, and whatever you're gonna compare. Or the S22 Ultra is $1,500, right? At least when it was when it came out. So it's still a good price for a um
Flagship. It's
big
good
phone.
context, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's. I don't know if it's cheaper than a OnePlus 9 right now because I think they're on sale, but yeah, like I think it's similarly priced to that, which is like about as cheap as
Yeah,
they get for
Google
flagships.
was Google was crazy this year of pricing. Last year, the Pixel 5 was affordable, but that wasn't really a flagship, right? Like, I mean, we talked about whole flagships versus mid range and stuff. I think we had a whole podcast on that.
That's true.
But
Yep.
like, the cost of the Pixel 6 is the exact same cost as of the Pixel 5 when it came out, and the Pixel 6 is
That's a good
like an
point.
actual flagship. So like, the Pixel 6 is not a bad buy. I would
No,
never
it's a
tell
great
anyone
buy. Yeah.
not to get it. But I held John's phone for like a minute at on over the weekend, and I was like, "Ooh, this kind of feels like the iPhone," and I don't like that. I don't like how sharp it. Not I guess.
I liked it. I was getting Note vibes from it, and I was really into it.
Yeah,
Getting what
I've
vibes?
never.
Note, like Samsung Galaxy Note
No.
vibes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
very note.
exactly. It's very
But like the
square.
good ones, the new ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So
I actually thought I wouldn't like the squared off kind of design of the Pixel 6, but it's grown on me a lot since I've had it. I still find it to be very large, but I've gotten used to the size. But yeah,
What phone are you going from though? Like, I think that it's also worth putting in the context that
4A,
so
5G.
I was coming from a Pixel 4a, which is really small. That's what I was using right before the Pixel 6. But kind of over the last year, I've been bouncing around between the 4a and the 4a 5G. And I always kind of felt like the 4a 5G was just a little bit bigger than I would have liked. And now the 4a 5G feels positively tiny in my hands, even though it's still a large phone. It's just small compared to the 6.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
I,
the
I
4A,
came from an
5G
iPhone
size.
12 Pro, so 6.1 inches, and then also a Pixel 5. Those were the phones I was using before. And when I first held the Pixel 6 Pro, I was just like, what the hell is this? It's this heavy, it's huge. But I got used to it within like I think a few hours. So I mean, I totally get preferring smaller phones as well. But I mean, I've given it to some of my friends who I guess have large hands, maybe, I don't know, but they're like, oh my god, this is the perfect size, and I'm like, the perfect size is a little stretch, but it is great, yeah.
Yeah.
One other
You have
argument
huge
in
hands.
favor of the Pixel 6 is the Pixel 6 has the more fun color options with your
The
I think
green
it's
is
sort of
so sick.
seafoam, which is like the green color, and the kind of coral, which is like the orangey peach color. I think the colors are way more fun, and the camera bump is placed higher on the Pixel 6, so there's less of a empty strip above the camera bump. It's a very subtle difference, but I find it looks a little bit nicer, at least in my opinion, than the 6 Pro with its very large top section.
Big phones for the win.
I like the camera bump on both them. I think that's controversial.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it was controversial. But
I think it's huge.
It looks cool. It's
huge.
I put my phone in a. Sorry, I was gonna say I put my phone in a case, so I don't notice the camera bump as much anymore.
Yeah.
But like when I take it out, every time I'm like, oh my god, this is a huge camera bump.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up, like, and I'll preface this with, I think it's a little. When phones come out, we often find issues with them. Like, I think the iPhone series every year is under like a pretty significant microscope. I feel like Google has a reputation for its Pixel devices having hardware problems. In some sense, I feel like that's a little unfair. I think it's like people like us look at those phones in a different light because they're coming from Google. And I think fans of those phones are people that are a little more technically minded. So these issues just get like, I don't want to say blown out of proportion, but they get far more coverage than they would than another device. John, I know you've done a bit of reporting on this for us already, and there's even some stuff that's appeared today. But are there any significant issues with the 6 and the 6 Pro this year, or like are the problems confined to like one version of the phone, or are there any problems at all?
Almost everything that I've seen so far has been software. It's not hardware. I'm not sure what came out today. I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that thing.
I think it's just Google offering updates on like that they're aware of these problems and trying to fix them.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, everything I've seen has been primarily software, and it's mostly been the Pixel 6 Pro that I've seen reported on, but I think that might be because that's kind of the more popular option. Like you said, the audience for the Pixel typically is people who are a little bit more technical, they're enthusiasts, stuff like that. And those people are more likely to go for the 6 Pro over the 6. So, and those people are also more likely to, go on Reddit and complain about issues that they've found. So I think that's part of why it seems like the 6 Pro might have more issues than the 6, because enthusiasts are buying the phone, they're encountering issues, they're writing about it, and then people report on it. That being said, everything so far has mostly been software. There was a screen flicker issue with the 6 Pro where when the phone was off, if you press the button, the screen would like do this weird flicker thing. Google says they're aware of that problem and there's a fix incoming in December, I believe. The December patch should fix that. There was an assistant calling bug where Google Assistant would, when there was no sound, nobody talking or anything like that, Google Assistant would just start a phone call to someone in your contacts list. That also appears to be a software bug that I believe I wrote about Google being aware of it and a fix coming for that as well. That one was really strange because the people who had the issue could reproduce it by basically activating Google Assistant and then not saying anything. And after a few seconds, it would just start calling someone. And it might kind of be linked into people who had a previous phone and then they ported their data over to the Pixel. But it's not totally clear what's going on with that. And for now, the easy solution for that issue is to disable Assistant on the lock screen so it can't activate when you're not using the phone. And then you don't have to worry about it calling people. I've had a few minor issues on my Pixel 6. During the review period, I had a bunch of software features that just didn't work or weren't available on the phone at all. But that changed after some updates started rolling out. There was like a day one patch basically that I think was delivered to most reviewers' phones, but it didn't arrive on mine until after the review went live. And then I've had an issue with the screen on my phone having a very slight green tint and a weird flicker that appears to be related to the 90 hertz panel. But these are issues that I've seen on other phones, and it seems to be more of an OLED panel issue than a Pixel specific issue. And basically, it's just whatever panel is in the Pixel 6. When you run it at 90 hertz, it's like this adaptive thing where it'll switch down to 60 hertz when you're not using it. And on gray screens, you can see a flicker where the gray, like the brightness of the gray, changes when it switches between 90 hertz and 60 hertz. So it's not super noticeable, but it's still kind of there, and it's a little bit annoying if you like using the phone in dark mode.
Dean, did you have any problems at all with your phone?
So
before we
I
move away from that, how do you even like? When would that even apply? Like, it's just in any dark mode app. It's like starts flickering
the
whenever
dark mode thing.
Yeah.
leave it on.
So-
on like whenever you're not touching it, or like that sounds awful. Like,
Yeah,
is
when
it
it
happening a
flips-
lot,
when
or
it
is this
flips
like
over.
pretty random?
So it's pretty consistently in dark mode apps, but ones that use like a gray background, not the full black background. So for example, like Google Messages and other Google apps that have that kind of like gray background, that's where it's most noticeable. And I find it's more noticeable on lower brightnesses, and it's just a very slight, like subtle shift in the screen's brightness when it changes from 90 hertz to 60 hertz. And it's an issue I've seen before on the Pixel 4 actually. And
So it's just less of a flicker and more of a change then, or like is it
Yeah.
consistently flickering?
it's not like it'll happen and then it won't. So like it's not like it's sitting there flickering back and forth between the two states. It'll happen and then it'll stay in the one state and it'll flicker back when that 60 to 90 hertz change happens. So if I lock the phone to 60 hertz or if I lock the phone to 90 hertz, I don't see it at all. But if I let it stay on the adaptive mode where it switches between the two, that's where you notice it.
Is this something that could be fixed through software, you think? Or is it like a pure hardware problem that like if Google were to solve it, it would have to be like a revision down the line?
I believe it could be fixed through software because, as I mentioned before, I've seen this issue on the Pixel 4 because it had the same thing with a 60 hertz, 90 hertz display and could swap between the two refresh rates. And that was fixed via software. So hopefully Google fixes it at some point. But it's really not that big of an issue. Like it's not super noticeable unless you're like really paying attention to your phone and you use it in dark mode all the time.
That makes sense. Dean, did you have problems with your
No,
Pixel 6 at all? Pro?
I do not. It's a really funny thing we have here. Whenever we get Pixels for the last 3 years, John seems to have more problems than mine. I think last year I ended up getting 2 Pixel 5s because I had like a camera issue, but
Yeah, I
turns
remember
out the
that.
camera was just shitty and just
It was focusing,
I mean, not
wasn't it?
shitty, but it just wasn't the greatest. No, it just was fuzzy. Like it was, yeah,
Okay.
focusing, yeah. But as you can see behind the 2 Pixel 5s. But yeah, no, I didn't really have any issues. This I'm not saying that my screen like mine, like I don't have an assistant calling bug at all. A screen flicker, I don't see it. And John 60 to 90 hertz, I might be an issue with my phone as well, but I don't use dark mode ever 'cause I think it's ugly. So I wouldn't ever get to see it, right? So
I think you might be okay with that as well because your display has a wider range of adaptability because it can go from 10 hertz to 120 hertz.
mhm.
So I
That would
think
make
you might
sense.
escape that.
Okay, but yeah, no, I don't have any issues except for yeah, nothing. I mean, I think the battery drains too quickly, and but I mean that could just be how the phone is supposed to be, right? I noticed that some people were complaining about the fingerprint sensor taking too long to activate or like to use, but that's not yeah, but that's not an issue. Google has come out and said it's supposed to take longer than any other phone because it's doing more work to authenticate who you really are. Apparently, like it's using more software. So and for me personally, it doesn't take too long. It feels like a normal fingerprint sensor. It's for sure slower than Pixel Imprint on the Pixel 5. I've come to notice because that was instantaneous, but it's not a crazy long fingerprint sensor for me. So I mean, I have noticed that sometimes it fails, but I have that same issue with every phone. Usually, I actually insert like my fingerprint twice. Like how it gives you the option
Yeah.
to save like
Yeah, I do
five
that
That
too.
fingers.
happens to me too.
I'll do the same finger twice because it's just such an issue. And I haven't needed to do that with the Pixel 6 Pro because it works mostly well. So I think for me that was a good sign.
If I can just add on to that really quickly, I haven't noticed any issues with fingerprint sensor speed on the 6. My only real complaint about it, and this is an issue I've had with basically any in-display fingerprint scanner, so it's not exclusive to the 6, but I have very sweaty hands, and so when my hands are moist, I find the sensor has a harder time reading my fingerprints, so I have to do the old wipe my hand on my shirt before I do the scan. But that's a pretty common issue for me.
I was gonna say that's pretty standard with any fingerprint sensor though. If you because I also have sweaty fingers. I've run into that issue a ton of times. I don't know if that's exclusive to the Pixel, right? Like I think, like you said, that's a pretty broad. Just like on my Mac, like the new MacBook Pro, half the time the fingerprint sensor doesn't work because my finger is sweaty. You know what I mean?
I think the issue. I think for that it'd be optical versus ultrasonic, whereas
Okay.
Samsung's it should work. It should work despite it being a little sweaty because it's an ultrasonic sensor, whereas everyone else uses an optical sensor, and your print will look different if it's wet.
I'm also convinced that laptops have terrible fingerprint sensors. I don't know what the deal is with the MacBook, but every laptop I've used, the fingerprint sensor is super hit or miss.
It's not untrue. Okay, let's quickly hit an ad break. I know Bennett has tons of questions for you guys too. He's gonna go through those after the break, but let's listen to some lovely commercial noises. Okay, we're back. Bennett, hit him with your toughest questions about the Pixel 6 and the 6 Pro.
Oh, well, there's just one thing I wanted to say before we go away from all that fingerprint chatting conversations is the only thing I want Google to change is when you put your passcode or your PIN code in, you have to hit enter. So like say your PIN code 1234 and then enter. But like on the iPhone, on OnePlus, you just hit the passcode 1234 and then it throws you into the system. You don't have to hit the enter button. And I hate it. I know Google's not listening. I know no one is listening even cares about this. But I hate it. I just wish that I put the passcode in and we move on as we're moving on to my questions.
It is one extra button, you lazy bum.
Yeah, I know. But it's like I can get like such a good flow of hitting like pop, 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 and then like I have to like readjust to
breaking his flow.
I'm all about it.
Has bugged me for years with Android phones, but I haven't noticed it on the Pixel 6 because I very rarely actually type in my passcode. I almost always use the fingerprint scanner.
That's true. I only use the 485G still, so I use the back one, and it's often like sitting on a table. So
the 6 is a little bit annoying because if you accidentally activate the pin, it blocks the fingerprint scanner.
Oh,
so like sometimes I'll open the lock. I'll go to unlock my phone, and I'll swipe the lock screen by accident and bring up the pin pad to unlock it that way, and then I'm like, oh, now I can't scan my finger anymore.
Just go back.
Yeah, but it's annoying. On OnePlus phones, they move the pin pad so that you can still access the fingerprint scanner.
Really?
So that's just a nice little change.
I've not noticed that.
I'm not sure if you can. I don't know. I'm like lost on OnePlus. I'm like the last time I used it is Color OS now, and I hated it, and I haven't picked it up since. I haven't touched a OnePlus phone in a while. But anyway, moving on. I want to talk about the zoom lens on the Pixel 6 Pro, Dean. Do you know how far?
All right, let's go.
Yeah. Do you know how far it goes? It's not as far as the iPhone, but it's almost as far, right?
It's further.
It's
iPhone is only
okay.
isn't iPhone only like 2 times?
That's
three times.
Well, the Pixel 6 Pro is 4.
Nice. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Do you know what's 10 times?
All right. It's in my hand. This is 10 times. I'm aware.
I just wanted to mention it because I do. That phone has the best. We're talking about the Galaxy S21.
1 Ultra.
21
Ultra. We're on 1. Yeah.
I don't remember anymore at this point.
Yeah, okay.
It's been a long year. It's been a long life. The 10 times zoom is sick. Like I was very impressed with it. Like
yeah.
building off Bennett's question, how does it compare to that? Like, I know it's not going as
That's a good
far, but
question.
is it as clear?
There is that super zoom tech. Is that like bridging the gap at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually used the S21 Ultra's 10 times zoom. I know I have the phone. I just haven't gotten to that part of the testing yet. Because I've just started to use the iPhone. I only got the iPhone last week, so I'm like, I'm gonna give a week with that, a week with the
Why do you have all
iPhones,
these phones? Tell the listeners.
so that I may compare all three of them and tell you which is the best big flagship to buy that's not the Z Fold, because no one's buying that one. So out of these three, I'm going to compare them and tell you which one you should get or which one I would get. But yeah, no. So I haven't used the 10 times zoom. Going off your pictures though, the 10 times zoom is clearly the better option. I the 20 times ultra red zoom on, I don't think it's called that, but the 20 times zoom on the Pixel 6 Pro
super
uses
res zoom.
super res. Yeah, it
Yeah.
uses it's like a hybrid. There is no pure digital zoom. Well, I mean, I think it was, if you try to go in between, it's digital. But
Yeah.
the 20 times zoom is hybrid, so it's not horrible. I in my review, I took a picture of Stephen Amell on it from the back of a room in Fan Expo, and I mean, I can clearly tell it's him. It just doesn't look great. I mean, like it looks blurry. It's not. It's definitely not it's definitely not the 10 times zoom. It's, I think, even on my P30 Pro, the 10 times, it's 10 times zoom, which was hybrid, was better. It Google has some work to do with, I want to say that it's telephoto stuff, like its zoom quality.
Yeah.
It's not by any means bad. Like, I thought 4 times zoom did the job. In my review, I have a picture of me standing at on like harbor front area, and I took a picture of the CN Tower, and I went far. I saw the top of the CN Tower, and the quality was great. It was almost the same. Uh, it was similar quality to like its primary shooter, but it's definitely not at the level as Samsung or even Huawei. Although I know no one is, I mean, not no one, but a lot of Canadians are not buying Huawei phones because of the lack of the Play Store. But yeah, it's not
No
there
one should
yet,
buy a
but it's
Huawei phone ever in
I
Canada
would
or the States.
I will
Well, ever's tough.
not
Maybe in a few
mention
years it
to
could
that.
be worthwhile again. But anyway, moving on. Not really moving on from the zoom lens in particular. I want to get into real tone in a second, but before I want to do that, I want to ask like both of you guys. I guess actually real tone will play into this. But so for me, lately, really, what draws me to a phone is the camera. Like I've just become so camera obsessed in the last like year. Just like I can't care about anything else. Do you think, as a person who's like camera obsessed, the Pixel 6 or 6 Pro would stand up comparably to an iPhone?
I don't know if you saw this, but I posted a video in the Slack channel earlier from The Verge that they
Today?
took 1,000 photos on the Pixel 6
Oh,
Pro
the
and
Beckham
1,000
video?
photos
I
on
haven't watched it yet. I
on the
love her
iPhone
videos,
13
though.
Pro, and they did a really great deep dive comparison between the two.
Definitely watching it after
And
this.
basically, the quick summary is they said that the Pixel 6 Pro's telephoto lens is definitely better than the iPhone 13 Pro.
Can
The 13
confirm.
Pro's ultra wide is better than the Pixel 6 Pro.
Okay.
And their main sensor is more or less equal. It kind of just comes down to your preferences in terms of color. The 6 Pro tends to be a little bit bluer than the 13. And the 13 Pro tends to have more like warm colors. So it really just comes down to personal preference in that regard. 13 Pro is better in video, but they both have their strengths. So,
What's the Pixel
and
strength in video? Do you know?
they're much more vibrant colors
I don't know if I'm
because
down
they've
with
got
that.
the HDR thing in the video going now. So,
Yeah. I
I
have to play it back. I want to play it back. Lately, honestly, I've been getting into HDR too. I figured out how to shoot HDR with my Fuji, and when I tried to return my MacBook because it was borked, So I'm sad about that, but I'm getting another one. And like HDR, I'm sold on it. Before I wasn't. I was like, contrast is cool, moody shots, and I was like, no, HDR, hide in every all the time. So maybe the video would switch me. Maybe I need to get my hands on one of these. But yeah,
I
what about you?
personally like the night options on the Pixel 6 Pro better than on the iPhone 13 Pro so far in my testing.
That's
I just
interesting
think
because that was like one of the big updates of the iPhone this year was like we now have 12 megapixel sensors on every camera with like really low apertures. We can shoot like great shots and video in low light. And you're saying that the Pixel's still beating it, which makes sense
yeah,
too because Google's been riding that road for years. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So far, I preferred the Pixel 6 Pros better. I mean, I've only taken maybe one or not one or two, but like only a couple shots in night mode for the iPhone 13 Pro. But so far, what I'm seeing, I'm liking the Pixel 6 more. Main camera wise, I'm liking the Pixel 6 more as well. But I'm testing it against, and this will go into your real tone. I'm testing it on black people, and I'm
yeah,
liking more what I'm seeing on the Pixel 6 Pro than what I on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Too many names in pros, but
yeah, honestly,
yeah. Why don't they just call it the XL? Anyways, but I'm like altogether in my time with the with the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the Pixel 6 Pro in my it hasn't even been a full week yet, but I've been like, should I just or it has been a full week, I don't remember, but I've just been like, I should probably switch back to the Pixel 6 Pro. The camera, I'm preferring it more. I like it a lot more.
iOS is hard
Uh,
to beat sometimes. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, and I guess I mean we answered this sort of in the video we made. If no one's seen it, we have a video about real tone on the website, on YouTube, on Facebook. I believe there's a TikTok version of it as well. But do you feel like that's a really big selling feature? Like, do you feel like it
I
was
don't
enough of a difference compared to other phones, or do you think there's more road to go on that one too?
I don't think there's more road. Like, I mean, obviously there's more road to go. I mean, you can always find more places to make things better, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
is really good. I don't know if it's a selling. Like, I don't know if it's a huge thing for a lot of people. Just because if you gotta think about the normal consumer, they only use one phone over 2 or 3 years, right? So they're
Yeah,
not seeing how much better it can be always type of thing. Whereas we're testing out all these phones and I'm noticing on the like on a Huawei phone my skin was super bright, or on a Samsung phone it was better than the Huawei phone but not as great as an iPhone. And on iPhones we're always pretty good with skin issue, like my skin stuff. So yeah, but then the Pixel 6 Pro is now definitely the best. um it it doesn't always perfectly capture skin tone, but it like I said in that video, like I've noticed that some of my friends look like they had like a little, not like their skin was brighter, but it looks like they had like a little light on their face. It's
yeah.
just hard to explain, but it looks like they were like in a spotlight or in a model video, which
No,
I
I
thought,
saw it in those pictures you had in your
yeah,
review. Like I totally
Reminds me
agree.
of when you would take like an adjustment brush and really feather out
Yes,
the edges
that's a good
really wide in
example.
Photoshop, and then just you can light an area, but it would just sort of like fall
That's
off
a
to look
perfect
like a
example.
spotlight. Yeah.
yeah. So
No.
it's not exactly, but it doesn't make the photos worse. I mean, I don't think it makes the photos worse. I think it does keep the tone correct. It just isn't true to life. But everyone who I took those photos with, they're like, "Dang, please send me those photos because they're really good."
Yeah, I mean that
Um,
when we took a view was like I still think that's like one of the better portraits I've ever taken
Was that the
with
one you
a
sent me?
pixel. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's the grinder profile picture right there.
all right.
Yeah, John, do you have any closing thoughts on the photo real tone sort of realm?
Yeah, I think there are some instances where it could definitely be a selling feature. It really kind of depends on, the person who's buying the phone and what their main goal is. If their primary focus is a camera and they want one that's going to handle diverse skin tones really well, definitely it could be a selling feature. And for me, I really like it. Just, thinking ahead, my wife is expecting. We're going to have a little girl next year. And
Congratulations. I mean, we know we said it, but on the
thank
podcast,
you.
it's still big news.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've talked about it on the pod.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be taking a lot of photos, obviously, of my daughter with the phone, and my wife and daughter have diverse skin tones. Well, my daughter will have a diverse skin tone when she's born.
Yeah.
So I'm happy knowing that I have a phone that's going to do a better job of capturing that compared to a phone that wouldn't. So that's kind of where I stand on it. That's a little bit more of a personal take.
But I think there'd be lots of people in similar situations,
Yeah. And if I were to go and buy a phone today, I don't know if that would be the make or break feature that would make me decide to get the Pixel 6 over something else, but it's something that I really appreciate having on the Pixel 6.
A good like, I guess, somewhat final question to ask related to this. Like, do you guys think that this will be the start of a trend in the industry where other manufacturers will start to take more than just white people into account in regards to how their camera sensors are tweaked? Like, I can see Apple seeing this and then like doing their own take on it next year and pretending like they came up with the idea in classic Apple fashion.
Dean and I were talking about that when we made the video. Can I tell the story, Dean, or do you remember it?
Yeah, for sure. It's all you.
Dean's theory was basically that like they'll change their algorithms, and all of the demo photos we'll see will be black people or people with diverse skin tones, but they won't say anything. That was our theory that we kind of like.
Yeah, because
why do you think they won't like that?
Because they won't want to make it sound like they haven't been doing this for years. Like, they don't want to make it sound like they've just is this something new? This is something they just thought of.
They want people to think that the iPhone always took good photos of people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly. Go ahead. Continue.
Honestly, like for years, I only got my first ever iPhone to like use for a best smartphone of the year thing. But that was my only first time, like last year. But for years, my friends have had iPhones, and I've always just been like, dang, like it does a good job at it's a lot better than my for instance my Samsung Huawei an HTC when I was loving those guys. But so it's never been like a like it's never been like a huge issue for iPhone, but I've always noticed my tone is a little off. But then when Google does something like this, and it's like, hey, this is what we're focusing on, you're like, oh, now you can really see the difference in what you're seeing. It's really supposed to look like in pictures.
I didn't think of it that way.
Do you think that difference might have stemmed from like with Samsung and Huawei and other phones like that? I know a lot of those companies tailor their cameras for beauty filters and stuff like that. That's really popular in some countries in Asia.
South Korea.
So in like, other places, is that like perhaps one of the factors at play here for why cameras maybe didn't handle diverse skin tones as well from those phones?
I think you got to think about it. Whereas when you're in, you try to build a phone for your audience, right? And if you're in South Korea and you know that you're building a phone that will go everywhere for sure, but your largest market or your biggest market will be South Korea, or your biggest market will be China for Huawei, or Taiwan if you're HTC, or OnePlus is China and India. Like you're building your phones, you're building these cameras to highlight that. You're testing these cameras out on people, of those people in those countries,
probably.
right? Yeah. So you're not really like your goal isn't really to satisfy them. Like you're trying to satisfy your audience. So even though there are people in Canada and US and other countries that have people of other diverse skin tones using your phones, that's not where your mind is at, right? Whereas
even for years too, you know what I mean? Like just testing film and everything has always been white people. So it's like even when you were like, if you were learning to test these things, the reference material you would be using would be just all these, and you wouldn't even think like some people would, but a lot of people probably wouldn't think about diversity. Just be like, oh, this is what they were doing in the 50s. Cool. Like, okay, like,
The
let's apply
origins
it
of
now.
photography were
Yeah,
like
exactly.
built around taking pictures of white people.
Which is unfortunate, and we're happy that's being remedied now. But yeah, I think that's probably something that's similar that's happening in, like what Dean's saying, in Asia.
Did you have any final questions, Bennett, or like in general, like does anybody have any final thoughts on the phones? Because I think it's a good place to wrap it up soon.
Do either of you guys feel like you would buy this phone? Would you buy the 6 or 6 Pro? You were a regular person on the street?
Probably.
Yeah,
I probably would.
I feel like
I
I might as well. I'm
the
damaging down
only
the iPhone
thing
still.
the only thing that I think would potentially sway me is my wife uses an iPhone, so iMessage is really nice to have. It's really convenient, but
Yeah.
also we've
Yeah, I
gotten
was just gonna say
by
that.
for
Like,
years
if I had
without
to, if
me using iMessage.
I had to pick between iOS and Android, I still don't know where I'd lie. I'm kind of in the middle now after using an iPhone for a year because of iMessage is so fun. But if you're like, all right, well, don't buy an Apple phone. You have to pick an Android phone. I'm either thinking Pixel 6 Pro is probably the top of my list, especially if I consider the price point.
Yeah.
And for me, I would have to be like, I don't know if I'm gonna do the Pixel 6 Pro or the Z Fold 3, but that would be those would be my only two.
Flip, eh? I've
Yeah,
got, like,
Z Fold over
I
it.
like the look of the Flip a lot. I don't know if I'd ever buy
Flip's
it,
so
but like
cool
I just
looking.
am very attracted to that phone.
It is a
Pardon?
very nice looking phone, but I'm
I
like
was
thinking
gonna say
about
that
big screens, big phones, and I'm like, okay, so I don't know. I wouldn't know which one to buy, but it would probably come down to the Pixel 6 Pro just because of its price point, and I am a journalist.
Yeah, it's a good
two
value.
final thoughts. The Flip is an incredibly cool looking phone, and there's no reason for me to ever buy one or want one. It just looks really cool, and even the like flipping has no practical
You can match
purpose.
it to your fridge if you got a Samsung bespoke fridge.
I'm not gonna.
My
do that.
mom might buy one. I'm like,
Really?
she gets all these like we still have
She's
like
gonna buy
all
one.
these phones. She's considering it when her
We're
like
talking about the
she's
Flip,
like,
right?
I don't
Not the
know.
fridge?
Yeah, the flip.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want the
Just-
fridge.
Important
Same.
distinction.
The last thing I was gonna say too is like I think I am the only iPhone user in all of North America that has iMessage turned off. Like I think that I'm the only person.
You are a monster.
I don't know anyone with an iPhone that I talk to through text,
Yeah.
which is
Your
like
wife.
3 people. Yeah, I don't need to see red receipts. I don't need her red receipts. All right, let's talk about games. What games have you guys been playing? Bennett, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, because I played a game this week, guys. A real one.
Not
Actually,
the game of life.
Let me get this. Yeah, one sec.
Oh,
It's
you're gonna hold
Forza.
it up?
We can't see it. You're pixelated.
Oh,
The gas can.
If you're an audio listener, now is the time to go onto YouTube. But basically, Microsoft sent us this. You can see it on our Instagram too. It's going to be loud for a second. But it's this this is a legit like metal, old, repurposed fuel container from World War II. Oh my God, it's heavy. But they sent it to me, and it had a candle in it, and this Forza Xbox controller. So I'm playing Forza, and it's sick. If you have Forza 4 or you have Game Pass, you can get the new one. There's a Battle Royale mode, and it's hilarious. It's hilariously fun. Should I outline it? Should I just
outline it quickly.
Basically, everybody starts in a punch buggy on the map. The circle shrinks like a regular battle royale, but instead of fighting people or shooting people, if you see them, you honk at them and you race. And a random point will appear on the map, and like you have to cut to that point. You don't have to go on the roads; like you can go cross country. Basically, the first one to that point wins. If you win, you can steal the other person's car. Like you can loot them essentially. And then, just last person standing wins. And it's super fun. So you're like driving around a punch buggy, like trying to avoid people until you can get into a faster car. And then last time I was playing, I got into like a level 6 car. And I was like, oh, I'm going to hunt now. And I just was like driving around, just like looking for people in low tier cars and just picking them off because they just couldn't keep up. It was super fun. I mean, it's really random because Forza is just like such a straightforward racing game usually, but it is a lot of fun. I was like having a blast. I was like laughing, and I was even racing online, just regular races. And this is probably just my experience, but it was really great. The community of people that I was like online and talking to were all really friendly and like making jokes and like helpful. And it was just like I had a great time. I haven't played games in a long time. I played Forza for like 4 hours last night, and I loved it. Also, the lighting effects in the new one, really great. I was running at the highest end settings on my PC until it crashed, and it was beautiful.
I played Forza a little bit too, only like maybe a half hour or something like that. I really liked it. It seems like a great game. I think for me, I just haven't quite figured out like what the upgrades are over Horizon 4. It felt like the same game that maybe looks slightly better and there's a Ford Bronco in it, but I know there's more to it than that. I just got to get there and experience it for myself. The Battle Royale mode you're describing sounds incredibly sick, and I'm hyped to check that out.
So fun. It's really arcadey, you know, like even at the end, it's not like it's like the final 5 and it's like first person to make it at this point wins. It's like you might just start further away than everyone, you know, like
Nice.
It's pretty arcadey. Like don't go in expecting like I need to get my stats. It's a for fun mode, but it is really fun. One of the things I will say, Pat, in terms of improvements, and I just noticed this as I was playing online, most of last night's play period was just racing online. But I was really, really like enjoying the tracks. Like I think I played pretty much every track in Forza 3.
Okay.
Forza Horizon 3 and Forza Horizon 4. Like I beat both of those. But I found the tracks in 5 just be really dynamic, and they're always like timed well. They would have like specific weather settings and like sun settings and like lighting, and it would just look as pretty as possible. And the tracks had good elevation, and like all the corners in the open world felt like a race car track corners as opposed to like real world corner. You know, like it seemed like a little more time had been spent to make sure the world was really fun to race and drive in. Not that it wasn't in other games, and I don't know if this was just me being hyped on the new one, but I kept bringing this up to other people and asking them, and this could be everyone hyped on the new one, but people seem to be generally agreeing with me that I think the tracks are better, more fun to race this time, which is a subtle thing when you're like looking at the video game. You're like, oh, they're talking about 4K 60 and new lighting and dust effects and reflections. It's like, that's all nice, but I think honestly, when I got down to it and I played for a few hours, I think the tracks were just better, just more fun to race on, and I was like super into that.
Dean, what about you? What have you been playing?
Can I go last?
Sure, you can go last. I don't know why, but you can go last. John, what have you been playing?
I feel like Dean has something planned now.
Yeah, he's gonna like
before I get into
or
it.
Something.
Bennett, you should totally turn that gas can into like a PC case. I think that would be a sick.
That'd be sick.
Think of the thermals on the metal. It'd be great.
The thermals would be awful.
Actively cool itself or passively cool itself. What it's actually supposed to be, if for those listening, if you go to danishfuels.com, you can see them. But it came with these like leather straps, and they like go here, and it like supposed to hang off your wall and be a shelf. Like there's a little shelf.
Oh, that's very cool.
See it?
Oh, interesting.
Clear. Yeah,
it is a very cool promotional item as far as like video game swag stuff that we always get go. It's pretty sick.
But I appreciate you describing it because I just see one large yellow pixel on my screen thanks to Zencaster. But
yeah, if you haven't seen it, check our Instagram. You'll see a better picture of it. But
you'll see it in the YouTube video too. Like it won't look like pixels in the actual.
Yeah, but John's
YouTube
not going to watch his own podcast all the way to the end.
Yeah. Why would I do that?
He's already
skipped to the end.
Having conversations. But it's like bright yellow and has like Forza logos, and it's like purple on the bottom, so it's like not necessarily an item that I would like. And it's also a World War II gas can container, so it's not necessarily like the most like easy item to incorporate in your home. Like I'm probably gonna end up hanging it up in my basement, like a bottom.
You don't have a Forza themed bedroom in your apartment?
I don't have any room that's gonna like mesh well with neon yellow and neon pink decor. You know.
That's fair.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Anyway,
what I've been playing, I'll make it happen.
What I've been playing this week is the same as what I've been playing most other weeks. I'm still on that Destiny 2 life. But I do have a little anecdote to share about xCloud and Xbox Game Pass because I used it briefly this weekend in a super weird way, and it was cool. So I went away for the weekend with my wife, and I didn't bring my computer, but I brought a laptop with me just in case I needed it for something. And while we were away, I found out, so Destiny 2 has like this rotating curation of in-game armor mods that you can buy. If you're familiar with how the game works at all, you buy mods that you can put on your armor that kind of affect how you play, and it's like a build crafting thing. So they just kind of rotate which ones are available for purchase using in-game currency, and there's a new one each day. And one that I've been waiting to buy for a while became available while we were away, and I was like, oh no, this hasn't been available for months. I don't want to wait months again to get it. So I did this really janky setup where I did cross-save between my Steam account, because I normally play on PC, and Xbox, and then the game Destiny 2 is
This is
available
so
on
complicated.
Xbox, so I use xCloud game streaming to stream it to my laptop, but I didn't have a controller with me, so then I set up this weird software to emulate an Xbox controller using the keyboard on
my
my
God.
laptop, just so I
Wait.
could go into the game for 3 minutes to purchase the mod thing that I wanted. And it was the most absurd setup, but it actually worked. And
This
I
is
was like,
perfect. This is
yes,
a perfect place to tell that story. That's amazing.
this is the ideal xCloud scenario. So if you're not sold on
Yeah.
xCloud and game streaming yet, just know one day you'll want to do something in a game when you don't have access to your
If you
console
play
or your
Destiny 2
computer.
like it's a part-time
you
job,
can do it.
you never have to put it away anymore. You keep it in your pocket.
Friend of the podcast, Douglas, would be amazed at you and very impressed.
He would. Douglas would
He
be
would.
like losing it right now.
I miss that
That's
guy
hilarious.
sometimes.
I went into
that
his
was my
Twitter
Destiny
space
journey
last
for the
night.
week.
I saw.
Oh, did you have a
saw
Twitter
that.
space last night?
Yeah, it was about how like Canadian businesses can interact with the press in better ways.
Oh no!
I didn't.
Sounds
talk, I was
riveting.
listening. Yeah,
Dean,
but no. Wait,
What games
just
have you
before you
been
go away, why did you have to emulate a controller? Can you just play mouse and keyboard controls on a laptop?
No, xCloud does not support mouse and keyboard controls in some games.
That makes sense. I was
think
wondering.
it works.
Yeah.
Some games will support it, some games do not. Destiny 2
Yeah,
is one of
that
those
is how
ones
it
that
works.
does not for whatever reason. So
Fair enough. Yeah, I was just curious about that. But either way, crazy story. That's amazing. I'm so like thrilled that happened. What a like riveting like hacker gamer moment. Anyway, sorry, Dean.
Yeah.
Patrick, what games have you been playing this weekend? This past week?
I already said Forza.
Forza
Just been
for
playing
30
Forza.
minutes.
Oh, okay. You only
Just
played for 30
Forza.
minutes. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
all I've played.
guys. So I played Apex. Like, there's a new character. Whatever, who cares? I've been playing
Really?
Smash Brothers. Skip again, a new character. Whatever, who cares? And
What?
oh snap!
Who is that? It's Apex telling you like talk about our characters.
It's
Yeah,
Nintendo
it's
calling.
EA
'cause-
calling.
Yeah.
It's my tile. Sorry, it's my tile. In
Oh,
my back
you did this
pocket.
the other day when we were in the
I do
car
it all the
too.
time. It's very
Yeah.
annoying.
He's got a
Um,
tile in his wallet, and if you press the button on it, it like rings where your
Is it
phone
the tile
is.
wallet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if he
Yeah.
leans on his
I've had that
wallet the
happen.
wrong way.
How'd that happen?
it happens to me all the time. But none of that's important. None of this tile stuff is important. None of the games I've been playing is
The
important.
suspense
What's
is building.
is
What game
important
is Dean playing?
is how obsessed I've been with Elden Ring. I've been watching so many videos of this game. So last week they showed like a 15-minute or 19-minute trailer or gameplay, whatever, and I've watched maybe 5 or 6 different breakdowns of this one 19-minute clipping, and that like some of these breakdowns are like an hour long, and I just sat down and just watched it, and holy crap, I'm so excited. They just released people have been other publications, not us, which breaks my heart so much, released like gameplay of like the closed network test that's happening this weekend. They've been like showing off what they've been doing, and I'm not gonna work for the rest of the day. I don't know if Patrick knows that yet, but I'm just gonna watch all of these.
Oh, boy.
I don't like this.
I should be hopefully by this point while you're watching this, I will have played 3 hours of the game, because hopefully I will have been on a closed network test that starts Friday at 6 a.m. and I plan on waking up at 6 a.m. just so I can start playing. But
You're crazy about this game.
I am
Yeah.
obsessed. I've
Yeah,
never been
yeah.
so obsessed with a game before. Like I'm excited. Like I was excited for Cyberpunk and I was excited for Demon Souls. But I've never ever been like, oh my gosh, let me just consume all the content and waste all my time just so that I can learn more about this world that was created by George R.R. Martin, who is the creator of the Songs of Ice and Fire, which Game of Thrones, and everyone loves
Game of
that.
Thrones.
So it's really cool that they combine his lore into a Dark Souls game that plays kind of like Breath of the Wild and Skyrim all in one huge thing, and I'm obsessed and I can't wait to play it. And it comes out February 25th. I know, but there's a beta this weekend, and I'm supposed to be doing things this weekend. Like I have a birthday thing to do, and I'm going to I'm supposed to have like a sleepover with some of my friends. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like I don't know if I have time for all that because I have to play this game. I'm obsessed about it.
I had to play this
I-
3-hour demo as many times as possible.
Yeah, I hopefully it's not 3-hour demo. It's 3 hours blocks of times you get to play this.
Oh, so you could
Cool.
make it further every time.
Yes, exactly. So,
Potentially.
and it's only
Wow.
over 72 hours of time. But other publications have had this game had this whole block of area for like a few days now. So this one guy is like, I spent 72 hours playing this game, and I'm like, whoa, you spent 72 hours in this one area, and you got to think about it, like just the one area, the first area of like, I would compare it to the first area of Breath of the Wild. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot bigger,
Spending 72
but like
hours
just
in Dean's
one
dreams.
area. Yeah. I'm just obsessed, and I'm jealous that I didn't get it. I'm jealous that I have to wait. I am hoping that Pat comes through with something.
I'm working on it. I'm trying.
Yeah, and I'm
You should
supposed
have told me
to.
you were trying to take the whole day off. You should have just
Yeah,
structured
I
this in the
might.
wrong way.
I might have to review another game during this time, and I'm just like, I don't have the time for that. But yeah, no, I'm super excited, and I can't wait.
Yeah, this other game Dean's like shrugging to the curb is only Pokemon.
Yeah.
No,
Is that
I'm
what you're
thrilled
talking
you're
about?
excited
I
about this
know, I
game.
know.
I'm super happy for you, but I don't think there's a game in existence that I could give less shits about. Like on Earth. Like,
And we
I
talked
was
about
trying
5 Netflix games at the top of the show.
I would rather play those Netflix games than Elden Ring.
Okay, you gotta think. Okay,
Wow.
you love
They're
you.
just
Okay,
not
you
for
love
me.
Oblivion. Yeah.
I don't. The only
Don't
Elder
you?
Scrolls game that I really
Oh, it's
really
Morrowind.
like was
Morrowind.
Morrowind.
Okay, my
Oblivion's
bad.
fine. I played it a bit, but like Morrowind, I like lived in when I was in high school.
Okay, so
That's
think
the one that I have like a
think
nostalgic
an Elder
connection to.
Scrolls game. Think Breath of the Wild that I know you
I know,
like.
I know.
And then just
I-
Dark Souls combat, which means it's just
Yeah,
better
that's
combat.
where you lose me. That's
No,
where
it
you lose
means
me
it's
because
hard
I
as-
can't
hard
I
as
can't do that
nails.
ultra difficult combat. It's
Yeah.
like it's not for
It's-
me. I understand why
they've-
people like it, but
They've
it's
added
not for me.
things to make it easier this time around.
Like easy
How
for
easy?
someone who's really bad at video games because that's me.
No,
Assassin's
but I'm
Creed
not great at
3
video games
easy?
either.
Yeah,
but-
Assassin's Creed 3 easy. Yeah.
X to parry. Ching,
No.
stab.
No,
ching,
I am super
stab.
excited, and I can't wait to get my hands on at least the beta. I'm hoping that, like, I know that Bandai Namco is not listening to our podcast right now, but we should just send them this clip just so they can see how excited I am and be like, "Hey,
Just
get
clip
me
it out,
this
send it as an
game."
audio file in an email.
Yeah,
Use that as
exactly.
a little behind the scenes podcast. Use that as your tweet to promote the podcast. This week I was on the podcast. Here's a clip of me talking about Elden Ring at Bandai
Yeah,
Namco.
100%.
Eyes. Do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good place to wrap it up. I guess I could mention that like I have a cool gaming thing coming up too that I don't think anyone here knows about, and I can't talk
what?
about. I can't even say what it is, but it's pretty big.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Can you tell
I'll
us
tell
when
you
we
guys-
stop recording?
Curious.
I'll
now.
tell you guys after. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But that's it. Thanks for listening to the SyrupCast. You can find me on Twitter at Patrick_Rourke, and of course on MobileSyrup.com. Bennett, where can people find you?
You can find me anywhere at the Bradfat, including roaming the Mexican streets in Forza now. And also you can find my work on MobileSyrup.com and our YouTube channel. And I'm hoping to like maybe get some more TikToks and social media video going over the next month. So maybe you'll see me there as well. But no promises yet.
You have a cool video about the Polestar 2 on the YouTube channel too, right?
Yeah, the Polestar 2 video is up. If you're thinking about getting an electric car and you have the money to buy a Tesla, but you don't really want a Tesla, I think this is a really great option. The one thing I will say going into that video is I say that it's charging at 50 kilowatts. It has been an upgrade. It does charge at 150. The rest of it is pretty good, though. Enjoy.
John, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at John_Lamont. That's JON_LAMONT. You can also find me on the website MobileSyrup.com and wandering the Shattered Realm in Destiny 2.
Shattered Realm. And Dean, where can people
I think
find
that's
you?
what it's called.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You can find me on Insta and Twitter at the Daily Dean. And this weekend, hopefully in the lands between. I think that's what it's called. Because
Yeah,
it's
if
Is
he's
that
not
what the
there,
world is
he'll be
called
in a
now?
lawn chair in front of Bandai's office, so you can talk to him.
honestly, like LA, I am going. I don't know if Bandai Namco's in LA, but I mean, I don't think.
I don't know
I'm
where it is.
assuming it's Asia.
Yeah, exactly, right. But yeah,
And as always, you can find all of our content on MobileSyrup.com and also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MobileSyrup. Thanks for listening. See ya.
Peace.